one person here. What are you here for?
I'm here for the Bear Creek Preservation
Okay.
Foundation.
Boy, you had to wait a long time.
Sorry about that. I'm gonna
For the
start
process.
recording.
There's a troublemaker in the back. Hey, Lee.
Are on over there? Okay, I'll call the meeting of the Park Committee to order. This is Wednesday, February 14th, 2018, at 7:05. Sorry to keep everybody waiting. We had a long improvement services meeting. Present are Alderman John Vanderleest, Alderman Chris Weary, and myself, Alderman Dave Nenig. Alderman Nicholson had another commitment and had to leave, so we'll note that he's excused. First is the approval of minutes of the January 10th, 2018 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Alderman Vanderleest, seconded by Alderman Weary to approve the minutes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections?
No.
Okay, then I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Okay, moved by Alderman Vanderleest, seconded by Alderman Weary. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number one, consideration with possible action on accepting a $30,000 donation from the Bear Creek Preservation Foundation toward the purchase and installation of a pedestrian bridge.
Hold 2 weeks. I'm kidding. I had to say it.
Do you have something you want to add? I'm sure we'll be happy to accept the donation.
Yeah, let me just give you a
Yeah,
brief summary
okay.
here. So I handed out a map which kind of gives you a better picture of where this bridge is going to be located. I'll kind of talk about what the issues we're having and the reasons for the bridge. So recently the Bear Creek Preservation Foundation approached us and requested to donate $30,000 towards the purchase and installation of this pedestrian bridge to cross the Baird's Creek. This bridge would solve a very big issue that we've been having out there over the last few years as far as a conflict with trail users and the railroad. So if you look at the map right now, the trail in question is kind of the orange trail, and you can see the arrows that point which way the trail goes. So this is not a two-way trail, this is a one-way trail. It's a single track trail for mountain bikers. So if you look at the lower orange trail that's going eastward, you'll see that as it gets to Highway I-43, you'll see that it has to cross the railroad track in that location. About 2 years ago, the railroad contacted the city and said, that is not a crossing that we want to encourage anymore, even though the trail has been there for years and years and years and has been maintained as a trail. Now, the city isn't maintaining the trail, it's the mountain bikers that are just constantly using it, and there's a well-worn trail. So basically, they said it's not a safe location to permit a new crossing, and we're not going to allow one in that location. So they put up no trespassing signs. They actually ticketed trail users who crossed the trail when they had somebody out there.
Police or?
I'm not sure who's doing it. It's an employee of the railroad. So it has been an ongoing issue. And there really is no option for somebody traveling east because, as you can see, the blue line represents the creek. And so they have no option but to cross the railroad to get to Moon Valley Drive, which then once they get onto Moon Valley Drive, they can then get onto Baird Creek Road and continue eastward. So this is the location where the proposed bridge would go. It would cross the bridge there, and then that would give somebody basically access to Baird Creek Road where they don't have to cross the railroad track. So staff is definitely in support of this bridge project, and the $30,000 will go a long way to make sure that that happens. Now, what we'd be looking at doing here is probably a 6-foot wide pedestrian bridge. So this would not be a vehicle bridge because even if a vehicle could get over the bridge, they can't get through the woods. So this would be big enough for an ATV for both maintenance and for emergency situations. Police and fire could get down there with an ATV or a UTV and cross that pedestrian bridge. We're estimating the bridge will cost about $40,000 in full to purchase, install, and hire a consultant to pull the permits to allow us to put the bridge over. As I mentioned, the Bear Creek Group has about $30,000 that they wish to donate, and we did look at our park bond accounts, and we do have $10,000 that we can put towards this project. Now, as far as installation goes, it depends on which bridge is actually selected, who actually does the installation. Some bridges are very easy for volunteers or park maintenance crews to do the installation. Other ones are not. So we're going to take a look at that, and hopefully we can do it with a volunteer installation or park crews instead of contracting that out.
Quick question for you, just
yeah.
before you go in. What is the height going to be of that bridge?
Well, the height, there's a certain height requirement that the DNR requires this bridge needs to be over the waterway. And I don't remember it exactly, but it might be around 4 feet above the water.
Okay.
And that would allow somebody in a canoe or kayak to go
get
underneath
through
it and
that.
get
Okay,
through.
sure.
So we do have to have this engineered, and we do have to pull up permits to make sure that it's designed accordingly and meets their standards.
Okay, thank
But
you.
I'm not sure on the exact height, but
That's
there is
okay.
a minimum required height that we have to design to.
Okay, that answers that.
We do have somebody from the Bear Creek Preservation Foundation who's been waiting very patiently to talk.
I'd like to hear from you. Do we have a motion to open the floor to hear
Motion
from
to open the floor.
interested parties? We have a motion by Alderman Vandley, second by Alderman Uri. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Would you like to come up and
Yeah.
give us your name and address for the record, and then tell us what it's all about?
Yeah, so I'm Holly Baseman, the communication director for the Bear Creek Preservation Foundation. And like Dan stated, this has been an issue for about 2 years. A huge safety issue because obviously with it being one-way traffic, we've had people going down to the railroad crossing and either trying to head back or just going across anyway. And to add just a detail to that, we did get a phone call from the railroad police at one point in time too, also yelling at us that they had put up trail cams and that in a 2-hour period, 140 people had gone across. And while they're screaming on the phone, we're going, ooh, 140 people are out in the park today. That's great. But you can't say that. So anyway, yeah, we feel very passionately about this going in. And, obviously our focus is always environmental, but safety of everyone out using the trails is always a main focus too. And I think this solves a huge safety issue out there. So that's why we felt passionately about it and went seeking money to be able to donate to the city to do this.
That's great. It's my district up to the railroad tracks, so I'm familiar with it, and I can see how that would be a wonderful improvement. And as soon as we can get it in, the better. So,
Seems needed, and thank you for the donation.
Yeah, you bet.
All right.
Well, the only thing I'd like to add to that is I would, if you do approve the donation, make it contingent upon staff approval of the final bridge selection.
Sure.
And truthfully, it would probably have to be quoted out through our purchasing department, so versus the Bear Creek group.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion by Alderman Vandley, second by Alderman Weary to approve it with that condition. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. You were
Thank
You
waiting.
don't have to go, we still have a lot of meeting left.
I'm gonna go tuck my kid to the
Great. That's a good one. Number 2, consideration of possible action on a Leadership Green Bay project to donate a truck with equipment to be utilized for community park programming and events. What do we got?
Donations.
We had a Leadership Green Bay group approached us. Leadership Green Bay groups, we have worked with them quite a few times, different projects in the past, and they approached us to collaborate on a project that benefit the Green Bay community, of course. After several meetings with them, discussing kind of the goals behind the project, they came up with the idea to fundraise for a mobile recreation station, which is, in layman's terms, a box truck equipped with amenities to enhance programs like Fit in the Parks, Parks RX, playground programs, special events, just different activities throughout the year. We actually really look forward to partnering with Leadership Green Bay to continue to increase physical activity, healthy lifestyles, of course, while making the parks more accessible. And then another thing that they were really excited about was just spreading the awareness of all the things we're doing. Not only with, of course, their group and being out in the community and a lot of the business community, but just spreading all the things. A few comments from some people on the committee were like, I didn't realize how many parks we had, and I just want people to know about all the amenities that we do have out there. So this would also have some really neat graphics on it that we put together, we coordinate together, and it would really highlight some of those things and be a really neat showpiece for for our parks and our community. This group, what they'll be doing tonight, and there was one here earlier too, I had to leave, but they would seek permission to start fundraising for this truck, and they're committed to fundraising at least $10,000 for the box truck, or possibly accept a donation of a truck, and then another $5,000 for the equipment and the graphics to put on the box truck. So the motion tonight would be to accept a donation from Leadership Green Bay for a truck with equipment to be utilized for community park programming and events, contingent upon the successful fundraising and staff approval of the selected truck and equipment.
A used truck of some sort that they would look for, or what?
More than likely, at that price, it would be a used truck, but we have talked with Keith and Parks, and, we have the ability to have our mechanics just make sure it's a truck that we would be able to utilize for many years and keep up with, and it would be something that would be still pretty high quality.
Yeah. I've seen pictures of that kind of vehicle that other communities have used, and used quite successfully, real visible kind of thing that
Mhm.
you can take things around and conduct
Yeah.
programs.
Mhm.
Well, any
Motion to
discussion?
approve is
Okay,
recommended.
A motion by Alderman Weir, second by Alderman
Aye.
Van Leest to approve the donation as requested. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There we go. Okay. Number 3, consideration of possible action on a request by Alderman Weary on behalf of neighbors of Colburn Park along 5th Street and Lock Drive to return to a previous policy of cutting the underbrush and weeds in the park immediately behind their homes. Dan?
Sure. We do review requests like this frequently on a case-by-case basis. So when we get a complaint, we go out and take a look at it. The photographs that I just handed out are photographs from, I believe, last year, last summer, behind this area. So this would be the area that we're talking about. This is the area immediately behind Colburn Pool and just to the west of it. So if you're not familiar with where these roads are. So a lot of times these requests are made to basically create a manicured wooded area within the park, and it's strictly an aesthetic issue. When it's strictly an aesthetic issue, we oftentimes deny the request. But if the brush or weeds in the area do have to be trimmed so that it's safe, impedes intended use, or encroaches on a homeowner's property, we do traditionally take care of those situations. So several years ago, the Parks Department maintenance staff did go into this area, and we did clear the underbrush because it was starting to grow too tall, so there was a safety concern at that point. Our intent at the time was not to keep it manicured, but to keep an open view through the area for the safety of park users. Now, as you can see in this photograph, the weeds and saplings are starting to grow again. They're starting to, and they will continue to grow if nothing is done. In our opinion, at this point, it's strictly an aesthetic issue for the homeowner, and it does not affect the safety of the park users. But if we want to look at doing something there, I guess our opinion on it is planting turf there will never grow. It's just too shady, too many trees. If you do approve this request, Forestry's best practice for the health of the trees and the site in general would be to place wood chips in the area. And then on an occasional basis as needed, just to spray Roundup over the wood chips. We have found that works in situations similar to this, and we do that same thing in other areas within this park and many other parks. It's just too time consuming to try and plant grass here and mow it and trim it on a regular basis when it really isn't going to do well. And I do want to mention too that in relation to the area adjacent to 5th Street, which is part of this agenda item, I do want to just remind the park committee that in the concept that was approved for the pool construction for concept 4, what was approved is to put a parking lot in that location. So a lot of the trees that are there now that might be of concern to some of these homeowners, a lot of those trees do have to be removed to make way for the parking lot and the stormwater management as part of the pool project. So I just want to point that out. This issue would be after the pool is built, it would be more for the people off of Lock Drive. So I guess it's up to you how you want to handle this motion. You can either receive and place on file the request, or you can approve the request to, I guess if you want to call it, return to past practice, which is keeping it more manicured, even though that really wasn't our past practice.
But we have been doing that.
Well, we did it on a one-time event because of the safety. I mean, it was really starting to grow up and impede the view. From a safety standpoint, we wanted to basically knock it back down to the ground. Keith can probably talk more about that if you want him to, but I believe it was a one-time issue just to kind of take care of a safety concern that we had.
Colburn's a big park, and about 3 years ago, we had the time and opportunity to get in there and get rid of the buckthorn and the honeysuckle, the weeds, and cut it back down. It's now starting to come back a little bit, but seems like the neighbors liked that. It was, you could see through it, but when you do that, it's a forest, so things are gonna grow up from the ground again, so.
And the other thing I do want to point out, that if we do take the approach to putting wood chips down, we do spray Roundup over those wood chips on a case-by-case basis as needed. And occasionally, there are residents that don't like that practice, but it's really the only way the wood chips help, but it doesn't take care of the problem entirely. So I would just want to note that.
Alderman Weary?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then Keith, thanks for going out there a couple times and talking with, in particular, it's one neighbor who's driving it, and he knows the meeting was tonight. Otherwise, not here again. And speaking with, in the last 2 weeks, 2 other neighbors who really have been kind of quiet on the issue, they like the way you're doing it now. And so, while one person, I think, is maybe trying to represent everyone, and I know where he's coming from, he would like it done a different way, as you explained. I'm getting the feeling more and more now that people are fine with the way you're doing it. So I'm fine if we just receive this, monitoring it.
It's fine with
He
me.
really wanted it to be on an agenda item so he could talk about it, but I think twice is plenty to give someone to have it. Yeah.
Second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Van der Leest, second by Alderman Weary to receive it and place it on file. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And if it ever becomes an issue, you can bring it back.
Yeah, thank you for that.
It looks like if you look at the picture here close, there's ferns and everything growing that are kind of rare. In other words, if you look on, there's some ferns that are coming up and things. Those are kind of nice. You know, actually,
Yeah,
the
those are pretty
beautification.
nice, yeah.
And, you know, those big trees, they can't, you know, you can mow around them and all that, but this is the way to do it, this is the way you got it.
I'm glad you did the clearing of the underbrush a couple years ago. There were a couple little huts and things that were
Oh.
developing.
Yeah.
And there may be a time when it is appropriate to do that again. but,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if someone was living in there or.
Okay, we'll go on then. Number 4, consideration of possible action on the request by staff to reallocate the approved 2017 Perkins Ball Field bond funding to go toward the construction of the Beaver Dam Park ball fields instead. Dan or
Sure,
James?
I'll handle that. So
Okay.
in 2017, the Parks Department and City Council bonded $250,000 to go towards the installation of a second baseball field adjacent to the new tennis courts at Perkins that was just built. Some of this funding, some of the $250,000 was used to hire an engineering firm and the contractor to design and build a stormwater biofilter basin, which was required to build the ball field. So without this stormwater management area, we wouldn't have been able to build the ball field or the tennis courts. Because if you disturb over half an acre, then it kicks into gear. So we would have had to have done it anyway. Staff is taking a second look at our park priorities, and what we're requesting is to use the remaining funding out of that $250,000 and instead to use it at Beaver Dam ball fields to put towards sports lighting at the new ball fields that were constructed last fall. They're going to be finished up this spring, And the grass seed will be planted in the spring, and we hope to open it up either next fall, open to the public, or the spring after, but it depends on how quickly the grass grows. In this case, the sports lighting is a necessity for the success of those fields at Beaver Dam Ball Fields because of the leagues that are playing there. The leagues that are going to be using those fields play into the night, and without sports lighting, they are not going to want to be playing on those fields. So it's imperative that we do sports lighting out there. So in 2017, Parks Department did receive $210,000 in a combination of bond funding and CD funding to go towards that lighting project. But the lighting project's going to cost more than that. It's estimated to cost approximately $415,000, and that's kind of a contractor installed price. So the addition of this additional funding from Perkins will be enough to complete the lighting project. And like I mentioned, the Beaver Dam Ball Fields will open, next year. Now, I did want to note that I did have a conversation with Alderman Stoyer in regards to this to make sure he was in support of it and get his 2 cents on it. He was able to stay through most of the last meeting, but he had to leave right before this meeting. He did want me to point this out, and I told him I was going to talk about it anyway. But our desire is not to scrap the project at Perkins. We still want to build a ball field out there, a second baseball field. It's just as we're looking at priorities, the demand isn't there to immediately be required to build it at this point. So what we do want to do is we do want to put it in one of our next bond requests over the next few years as we feel the demand is there. So we're not giving up on the project, we're postponing it because there's a higher demand elsewhere. I did want to point that out. And as long as everyone was aware of that, he was in support of this request.
Are both parks in his district?
One's in mine,
Yeah,
Beaver Dam is in
Dam
mine.
is in yours,
Yeah.
yeah.
John's in favor.
Definitely.
So,
Okay, well, it makes sense to finish a
Yeah.
ballpark project.
It's a nice park as well.
Started.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Weary, second by Alderman Vanderleest to approve the recommendation. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 5, consideration with possible action on the review and approval of the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Department 2018 capital improvements plan request. We are going to delay that until our next meeting, right? Or-
yeah, I can say a few things
Okay,
about
go-
it if you
go-
wish.
go
So, originally, the intent was to take the city's bond request to the Finance Committee at the end of February. So therefore, we had to put this on the agenda just to take care of some of our requests. But we were notified today by the Finance Director that they are able to push that back a month. So it'll be going to the Finance Committee about the end of March, which actually is very helpful in the discussion that we need to move ahead with as far as what we bond for park projects. So Colburn Pool is currently out to bid. The bid opening is scheduled for, I think,
Tuesday.
February 20th, which is next week, Tuesday. And so we can now talk about Colburn Pool as part of our total bond request. The other thing that we'll know mid-March is whether or not we're going to receive permits to build a beach out at Bay Beach and build a pier. If we do get those permits, we do want to, staff would like to have a conversation with the park committee to talk about that project and see if it makes sense to put any funding towards that. But if we don't know if there's any permits, we can't really talk about that tonight anyway. So by waiting a month for this, we can talk about both of those projects. And so what we would recommend is just to put this on hold and bring it back on March 14th.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Alderman Weary, second by Alderman Vanderleest to hold it until the March 14th Park Committee meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, finally, consideration with possible action on the 2018 Community Development Block Grant Park proposals.
So on a yearly basis, the Redevelopment Authority approves $150,000 in block grant funding for park projects. As I've mentioned in the past, these projects can only be selected in eligible areas within the city. And it has to be used for neighborhood enhancements, not large community projects. So if you take a look at the map I sent you in the list, the map on the second page, the areas in tan are the areas that are eligible for CD funding. We cannot go outside of that boundary and request anything else. It has to be in that tan areas. So if you go back to the first page, that lists the parks that are actually eligible. And if it's not on this list, it is not an eligible park. So what we're recommending for funding for this year is to do 2 playgrounds with that funding at $75,000 each. So the first one would be East River Van Beaver Park. And the second one would be Fort Howard Jefferson Park. So there are 55 playgrounds in the park system, and our goal is to replace 2 to 3 per year if we want to stay on a 20 to 25-year replacement cycle. These 2 playgrounds are some of our oldest playgrounds in the parks. The playground at East River Van Beaver was installed in 1992, and I believe that is now our oldest playground. We're definitely right up there with one of them. Fort Howard Jefferson, that one was installed in 1993, so it was a year later. Over the past few years, 5 years, we have had several requests from different people in the public who would like both of these replaced. So it's time for the replacements of these, and these playgrounds are in CD eligible areas, so that would be our recommendation. So what we're looking for is, we're not actually approving these projects, we're making a recommendation to the redevelopment authority, and they will be making the approvals.
Okay. Were there any changes in the parks that were eligible since last year? Or is that pretty
No,
much-
this is the same list as last year. It's based on the census.
Yeah.
And so they haven't done the census in a few years. So this map will probably be in place for a while.
Yeah, a couple years ago, there was a change that some of the parks that had, because the census was using a different survey now to determine which areas were eligible, there were some like Joanne's that are. that
Fisk
no-
Park too, I thought, wasn't it?
I think Fisk was taken off. I think Joanne's was taken off.
Sullivan Park.
I also think East River Optimist used to be on there. It's not anymore. So there were some changes, and then other parks were added. Like, I don't think Perkins was on it before, but it is now. I think that changed. So a few parks changed throughout, a couple of years ago, but this is the list that we're at right now, and we'll be at this list until they redo the census, I'm guessing.
The only question I had, or comment I had, was number 1. It's the East River.
Oh, I'm sorry. I caught that typo, huh? Yes, no, it's the East River Van Beaver Park. So,
Okay. And we have a list of, kind of a master list of projects that we are on the list, on the to-do list, but haven't quite made it to the top of the list yet. And staff picks the projects off of there, trying to be fair, but we have a long list.
yeah, and like I said, playgrounds are always on that list, and we always have the top, 4 or 5 playgrounds that are in need of replacement on that project list. So once we do these 2 will come off that list, but then we'll add the next 2 onto it.
On this list, are these as they go down as priorities? Is
These
that-
are not priorities, these are the parks that are eligible
Oh,
for CD
eligible.
funding.
Okay,
So
so you actually have that information on another
Yeah,
sheet.
so
then.
if the park isn't listed here, we cannot use CD funding for the park.
Well, it'd be nice to get 2 of them done.
Yeah, I don't think that our committee has reviewed that whole list for some time, but maybe we want to do that at some point.
Because I know Barb Dorf, she submitted that, when they get those bathrooms, and that, I don't think they were on the list, but, they was able to get, done at the city council ahead of time, because she brought it up.
Yep.
So, sometimes the squeaky wheels get
Yeah.
some action.
I think there was a project last year in Andy Nicholson's district that he increased the priority, let's say. And I can't remember where that was.
Wilder.
Yeah, Wilder. But, yeah, sometimes that happens.
I
Okay?
don't get anything.
Okay, so we want a motion to do what?
To approve the 2018 Community Development Block Grant Park proposals and forward the request to the redevelopment authority for approval.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Weary, second by Alderman Vanderleest to do that. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Director's reports.
I have a few items that I do want to touch
Okay.
bases with you on. So park crews, we do continue to keep ice rinks up and running. They're in pretty good condition right now. But Triangle Hill, on the other hand, I believe is still closed. So although there's snow, there's an ice layer underneath it, and it just is not safe for people walking up the hill. Bid opening, as I mentioned, is for Colburn Pool is scheduled for February 20th, so we will be talking about the budget and awarding that and discussing that project
Be
at
here.
either the next park committee or the one after that, but probably the next one. As you may have heard, DNR permits were submitted for the construction of a sand beach, boardwalk, and wildlife viewing platform, which is similar to a pier. And the DNR has made a tentative decision to award the permits, but it's continued on the public input process. So we should know in a couple of weeks after that public input process is done, whether or not the DNR will officially award the permits.
Is that just a general, people can send them feedback, or do they actually have a meeting and take feedback?
What they did, I believe, is they put out public notice, as did the city, requesting public input, and if somebody requests a hearing based on that input, then they will have a hearing. So right now, it's just comments sent to the DNR. And any comments that we receive, we will forward to the DNR also.
There was a legal notice in the Press Gazette regarding that, so but you never know what kind of comments you're going to get. Okay, you want to finish that?
Yeah, so the bid opening for the concession stand at Bay Beach was the other day. We talked about that already in awarding the bid at the INS. One thing I do want to point out, which wasn't really discussed at the INS, is the alternate. So we did not approve the alternate. I just wanted to let you know what that was. And we should have probably talked about it at INS, but I don't think it would have changed the decision. So basically, we have $700,000, which we allocated last fall to go towards this project. And what that alternate was the base bid was to replace the concession stand over by the bumper cars and basically double the size. The alternate was to do the ice cream bud shop in the train storage building. So when we bid it out, we had some concern that it was gonna come in over our budget, so we were able to break it out and get two separate prices for that project. So alternate that we did not approve was the ice cream bud shop. But we can always, once we do have money to go towards that project, we would like to pursue that in one of our future years.
How much was that?
I believe it was around 175,000, something like that. So at least we have a pretty good idea of what sort of budget to set aside from there. We just don't have money in our Bay Beach development account to proceed with that at this point. But as part of the base bid, we are bringing all of the utilities to that building and getting ready for it. So we will have sewer, water, electric, all of that is going to that train storage building in preparation to bid it out at a later date. So that exterior work was part of the base bid. So I just wanted to clarify that, just so that everyone was aware. Registration is underway for indoor soccer classes, adult softball, youth softball, and baseball. The indoor pool season and swim lessons are underway at Southwest and Edison Pools. The youth dance program is wrapping up soon. Dance recital is scheduled for March 5th and 6th at West High School. I encourage everyone to go. If you've never been to it, it's a great event. We have begun the hiring process for all of our summer part-time staff in all of our divisions. Over at the Wildlife Sanctuary, the Frosty Family Fun Night was on February 3rd, and it was well attended even though there was a snowstorm that day. And then the final thing is Ann Moeller. She is one of our recreation supervisors in charge of our pools and other programming. She recently completed a Wisconsin Park and Recreation Association 2-year graduate certificate program, which focuses on leadership and management skill development. So we just wanted to congratulate her. So that was a big achievement. So
pass along the congratulations of our committee. It's a nice effort to improve your education and effectiveness for our department, so it's good. I had one question. When it comes to the Ferris wheel for the park,
Yes.
does that get bid through the city, or how does that?
Yes.
Because that's
it
awfully
will-
expensive.
It will be bid through the city. Those bids will be, we're looking at fall construction, and will be bid out through Public Works for all the site work and stuff associated with it. Yes.
Where is it located again?
It is located, I do have a
Will
map.
it be located, I guess?
Here, I do have a map here in regards to.
It's always that good maps.
So here is the map for the beach project, and, you know, like I said, we're gonna give a presentation on this at a later date if we do get the permits, but the main pavilion is right here. So here's the big grass area behind it. Here's our train storage, or our train depot with the train going this way. So the new tot rides we put in are right there. So we're gonna fit the wheel right in between the train and the tot rides. And then we're gonna have the pier wildlife viewing platform going out into the water about 400 feet.
What is the cost of that pier? Is that just something for the future, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll go over costs when we give our presentation in 2 weeks on this project. And we'll talk about the beach, the pier, everything else associated with it. We won't really be talking about the wheel, other than we'll show you where it is on here, because the wheel is kind of independent of the rest of the project. The wheel does not need any special permits from the DNR because it's all on land. So the permits that we're talking about with the DNR and what we apply for is anything within the waterway. And so that's where we're at.
Where's the island?
The island is way over here.
Oh, it's this way. Oh, okay. That's good. Yeah, you wouldn't want to get closer to the island.
I know you've gotten some grants to assist with it. Has there been any private fundraising efforts at this point?
Well, where we're at right now is we only have funding to do the engineering for the project. So we have $250,000. We got that from 3 different sources. So one was the Packer Stadium District. They gave half of the money, and then we applied for 2 grants. So one was Wisconsin Coastal Management, and the other one was Fund for Lake Michigan. And we did get both of those grants, which equaled the other $125,000. So right now, that's all that we have. We have nothing to build this. And, you know, it was one of those things where we didn't want to bring anything forward and request money to build it if we weren't even sure if the DNR was going to permit it. So now that, you know, we're getting to that point, we'd like to start having those discussions. So, yes, we have no money to build it, but we have all the money we need to engineer it and put it out to bid. So. And then just to give you a kind of heads up, so the sand beach area would be from the pier to our property line. Everything west of the pier would remain natural. So the sand beach is behind the pavilion.
And there's a changing area somewhere here?
It's not shown on here because, like I said, it's all inland and we don't need special permits for that, but that bathhouse would go generally to the right of the pavilion in that area. And it would be bathhouse, restrooms, and we're even considering maybe incorporating concessions into that building too.
Okay, any
Exciting.
questions?
No, great.
Okay, now a motion to accept the director's report. Made by Alderman Vanderlee, seconded by Alderman Weary. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Motion to adjourn. Moved by Alderman Weary, seconded by Alderman Vanderlee. All in favor, signify by saying aye. We stand adjourned.
Thanks, Keith.